So the final and most crucial and perhaps the most rewarding pillar of advice from a trusted financial expert is actually the ability to facilitate the expansion and evolution of material wealth into contentment and happiness in the lives of our clients and their families. The million-dollar question, clearly, is whether money can buy happiness. And the answer, like everything, is more complicated. What do we mean by happiness? In a groundbreaking seminal work released in the USA in 2010, psychologist Daniel Kahneman and economist Angus Deaton explored the relationship between money and happiness. But their work actually differentiated between two types of happiness or well-being. The first is emotional well-being. That's related to the quality of everyone's daily experience, whether it be happiness, sadness, grumpiness, anger. The second was called life evaluation or life satisfaction. And that was actually a measurement on a scale of 0 to 10 as to how happy a person was about their life. As expected, people's life satisfaction rises steadily with income, regardless of comparative wealth. The more money you have, the better your standard of living and the more improved your lifestyle is. So in this regard, the more money you have brings more happiness. However, on the other hand, emotional well-being was found to level off. Many more studies support that above a certain level of income, there's actually no direct increase in the level of emotional happiness. The foundation of this assumption is that once an individual's basic or perceived needs are met, the further accumulation of material gains doesn't actually bring the respondent level of increased happiness in their lives. So many money-rich families actually, ironically, aren't nearly as elevated on the personal happiness scale as one would expect. More money can cause unhappiness and distress amongst families due to a lack of proper structuring and framework. Inheritances, whether hard assets or cash, can actually end up causing infighting amongst both siblings and widows. Unhealthy and outdated practices of inheritance can be a great cause of distress. There's actually a practice called primogeniture, which leaves the assets all in control of the firstborn son, which, as you can imagine, causes much distress amongst female siblings. A carefully thought out and structured plan with the assistance of a proper expert can actually help avoid many of these pitfalls. So in our line of business, we often see people also in transition, people who've recently sold a business or they've retired with substantial sums of money. These sorts of people often identify who they were with their line of work and then go through a deep period of unhappiness in the years that follow the initial event. So our role here becomes much more of a psychologist. Because we deal with very similar people in similar situations, we can share very common antidotes and then help people through these very difficult times. So we as financial physicians have tried and proven methods for where more money itself can actually lead to more unhappiness. And then we can give our clients the best possible chance to set themselves up for greater life satisfaction. But ultimately, thereafter, there is much research to show that it's what you do with your money and how you live your life that's going to lead to ultimate fulfillment. As far back as the 1970s, two psychologists, Brickman and Campbell, coined the term hedonic adaptation. It's also known as the hedonic treadmill. And this is the observed tendency of human beings to return to a relatively stable level of happiness, despite a major positive or negative event in their lives. In a late 1970s study, lottery winners and paraplegics were compared to a control group. And after the impact of the initial very positive or negative event, happiness levels actually went back to the average levels quite quickly. This interview-based study fueled what is now a large body of work on the relativity of happiness. Sonia Lyubomirsky, a psychology professor at the University of California, wrote an incredible book called The How of Happiness. And her book suggests that well-off people are not as happy as one would expect. So she did a study on well-off Americans. And what she found is that the richest Americans, those earning more than $10 million annually, actually report levels of happiness only slightly higher than the office workers that they employ. In a further study of well-off adults, more than half of those reported that more money actually didn't bring them any more happiness. And in fact, a third of them said that more money brought more problems than it solved. So Lyubomirsky's wide body of research actually shows that there are 3 factors that determine how happy we are. The first factor actually shows that 50% of our happiness comes from our genetic disposition. Only 10% is actually from the living conditions we find ourselves in, and 40% of it is determined by the intentional activities we do with our lives. So this would imply that apart from our genetic disposition, it's actually what you do with your money that's going to determine how happy you are in your life. New US research that's just come out shows that by giving to others, then actually receiving for ourselves makes us a lot happier. A series of tests were performed where participants received $5 each day, and they were told to go and spend it either on themselves or give it to a homeless person or a charity. Then the researchers phoned them at the end of each day and tested levels of happiness. And it was found that people were far happier by giving to others than receiving for themselves. And the happiness levels were the same on the last day as they were on the first. Many of you will have heard of Laurie Santos, a professor of cognitive science and psychology at Yale University. Her course in January 2018, entitled Psychology and the Good Life, became one of the most popular courses at Yale, with over 25% of students enrolling in it. What I find incredible about Laurie's work is actually what she believes is that you can practice to be happier each day. Her courses, funny enough, are called rewirements, which is a play on the college word requirements, because they've actually been proven to retrain our thinking. And her 7 main takeaways are as follows. Number 1, your mind lies to you about what will make you happy. Number 2, make time for making social connections. Number 3, helping others makes us happier than we expect. Number 4, make time for gratitude every day. Number 5, being in the present moment is the happiest way to be. 6, healthy practices matter more than we expect. 7, become wealthy in time, not money. So one of the observations for happiness that I've made about the people that we look after is that many of them are giving each day to the communities around them. Often in emerging markets, one has the ability to give directly to communities around them. That's often why wealthy people in emerging markets, it's quite difficult to raise philanthropic funds for them because they're giving directly to the communities around them. I lived in New York for about 10 years, and one of the observations I made about wealthy people there is that they often give to communities and NGOs that are making a difference in other parts of the world, so they actually don't get the direct feedback that people get when they're giving directly to communities around them that they do. And that's an advantage that they have when they live in an emerging market. I've been incredibly moved to see all of our clients giving directly to the communities around them. The 1 billion rand each from the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts to the Solidarity Fund in South Africa were not insignificant amounts. South Africa will grow and heal from acts of this nature. This COVID-19 pandemic has propelled us into new ways of relating and dealing with each other. For the past months, we've all been locked down in various forms of lockdown, reaching out to colleagues, clients, friends, family, all through digital means. WhatsApp, Zoom, Skype are all becoming central pillars in our interaction and connectivity. In times like these, it's not a huge leap of imagination to imagine a world where your human wealth manager is actually replaced by a machine. If anyone's seen the series Westworld or seen the movie Ex Machina, you'll have seen a world where artificial intelligence is actually well on its way to embedding itself in society. So your future financial position may well be augmented And I may stand here in 10 years' time with a neural lace implanted in my brain with access to all of my clients' portfolios at any one point in time. There is, however, something very menacing and dehumanizing about imagining this dystopian future. I strongly believe that it takes a real human with the accompanying human feelings and human emotions and a deep, innate understanding of the human condition to make the absolute human connection. I, for one, can really say that I deeply miss seeing our clients face to face. So as a financial physician, we can only go so far in helping our clients achieve complete happiness. What we can do is help them achieve the highest pinnacle of life satisfaction. This is where more money brings you more happiness. And then we can set them up with the most advantageous platform from which they can then launch their journey towards their greatest emotional fulfillment. So in conclusion, I actually wrote this talk before the current situation brought on by COVID-19. What's become apparent since is that this virus and the ensuing lockdown has actually given us time to pause, reflect, and reset. Now is the time to be both brave and bold, to reevaluate the old and usher in the new, to make the changes that we've been hesitant to make, and to actually commit to becoming the best, most happiest versions of ourselves through conscious effort and hard work.